The Milwaukee Bucks, they finished 58-17 last year. They were the first seed in the Eastern Conference. And look, I mean, they brought in some guys. I really like what they did in free agency. They brought in Torrey Craig. They brought in Brian Forbes. They brought in Bobby Portis, Drew Holiday. They traded for him, DJ Augustine. So they brought in some guys. And I think after Giannis signed his max extension, Giannis is all in. Giannis is all in on the Bucks. He trusts what they did this offseason. And I think everybody's expecting them to compete and make it farther than they did last year. For them, I feel like it's championship or bust.
Mm.
It's an interesting offseason for the Bucks because going into it, the big question was Giannis. And from everything you read, he essentially went to the Bucks and gave them an ultimatum: make us a championship team or I'm out of here. And you got to give credit to John Horst going out there, making moves. Of course, he lands Drew Holiday for a hefty price tag and then tries to get Bogdanovich. And although that falls through, I think it showed Giannis like they're all in on him. They're doing everything that he wants them to do to make them a championship contender. And I think it's nice just to get that black cloud of Giannis's contract, coming to an end out of the way. And now you can go into the season fully prepared. Everybody's locked in on a championship. You don't have to worry about losing your guy next season. And I like the move that they made to go out and get Drew Holiday. Although they lose George Hill, Eric Bledsoe, Wesley Matthews, you look at who they brought in Drew Holiday, and then they also made some nice signings. You brought up Bryn Forbes and Torrey Craig and Bobby Portis, who I also think will bring some nice depth off the bench. Looking at that starting lineup, Drew Holiday, Giannis, Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, that's going to be one of the best defensive units in the league. So I think they're well positioned to be the best team in the Eastern Conference and maybe in all of the league this season.
I do agree. I think this is definitely, and it's a champion. What's crazy? We had an episode one time we was talking about how Giannis should stay because small market teams don't get those guys that should stay for the long term. And I think this is really interesting. I'm not on the 100% wagon that he'll stay. I still think a trade is possible down the line. But I do like the fact that he's committed for right now. This is a team that's definitely well-oriented to make the playoffs. I think George Hill is going to be missed with DJ Augustine. I feel like they're on the same tier. And Drew Holiday is a step up from Eric Bledsoe. So you got guys who can defend and hit the three ball with Bobby Portis, Torrey Craig, Chris Middleton. You got Drew Holiday, who's a playmaker and an elite defender and can score. And then Giannis, if he keeps improving and getting that jump shot right, they're going to be unstoppable. And I do agree this is definitely championship or bust.
The one thing,
Coach Budenholzer, sorry to cut you off, but Coach Budenholzer, he's having this reputation thus far that he's a great regular season coach, but he can't get it done in the playoffs. And it's so true in Atlanta, Milwaukee so far. So, I mean, this is a big year for him as well.
You're 100% right, and that's what I was going to say is I love Coach Budenholzer. I think he's one of the best coaches in the league, and he does a great job getting the most out of his talent. But come playoff time, he hasn't been able to get the job done, and I think he's got this year and maybe next year. If they don't win a championship in these next two seasons, I would find it hard to imagine Coach Budenholzer will be the guy after that, just because they're going to need to shake something up. And they're not going to change the rotation before they change the coach. So this is really a prove-it season for Coach Budenholzer.
I don't think that holds true in Atlanta because they never really had a superstar player. I think that more on the lines for this team, the Bucks, so they have a Giannis. I mean, they did make the ECF, and they were up 2-0 at a point. So I think you can call that a successful season. And I think last year, obviously, they ran into Miami, and they got destroyed basically. But, yeah, I definitely do agree in the next 2-3 seasons, if he doesn't get it going, they should definitely think about making an adjustment at the coaching spot.
In the draft, they drafted Jordan Nora and Sam Merrill. I like Sam Merrill's game. He's not projected to be a good defender at all, but he's a sharpshooter. Neither of these rookies will probably play, but I love their starting lineup. Drew Holiday, Giannis, Lopez, Middleton. You mentioned that, Jack. I think they should start Brian Forbes.
You know what's crazy? We forgot about Dante DiVincenzo, whatever his last
Dante DiVincenzo is still there. I mean, they should start Brian Forbes. He's a sharpshooter. You can sacrifice some of his defensive limitations because everybody else on the team is so great defensively. It was great that they got rid of Bledsoe because he was such a liability on the court, even though he was a great defender.
On offense.
If you can't shoot, it's really hard to play next to Giannis who can't shoot. In the modern NBA, you need to have everybody on the court that can shoot. If not, your most dominant player, which is Giannis, who can shoot, you have to surround him with the most shooters. And I think I think Brian Forbes does that. He can maximize this Bucks offense if he starts.
Yeah, and I think there's two real keys for the Bucks this season, and one of them is those shooters coming up and producing around Giannis. Because listen, you know what Giannis is going to be at the end of the day. He's going to give you probably around 30, 10, and 7 a night, and he's going to be the guy. But guys need to produce around him, and I think you saw it in that Heat series last year, or this past season, I should say. They stopped Giannis as much as you possibly can, and the rest of the team did not produce. So as much as Giannis deserves some of the blame, that supporting cast deserved a lot of blame too. And they only stepped it up when Giannis went off the court with the injury. You can't wait until that happens because you're never going to win without Giannis on the court. So you need to be able to step up with him there. It's something the Lakers did excellently last year with LeBron and AD. They didn't take away from each other. And I think Chris Middleton is the other part that I wanted to bring up. He's got to step up his game and play to the all-star potential we know he can. And if they do that, they're going to be scary.
Yeah, I was in these last two runs from Milwaukee. I was never high. I was always under the belief where if Chris Middleton was your second best player, you weren't gonna make a championship run. But now you have two perennial all-stars in Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, where you can now miss and match. Both of them play D, so it's going to be interesting. And I think that supporting cast is definitely going to show up for this team, and I definitely do think they have a big chance to meet. I have them actually going to the championship this year in Milwaukee. That's going to be my pick this year. We're going to the championship. I think the team is deep, and Giannis is he's come back every year better and better. And I think this year we're going to see a little bit of the mid-range, the post-up, and we're going to definitely see a different game.
I mean, we could just mention some of the role players that they have now. In my notes, the starting lineup, like I said, that I have them having is Holiday, Forbes, Giannis, Middleton, and Lopez. Off the bench, I would like to see DiVincenzo, DJ Augustine, Bobby Portis, Torrey Craig, DJ Wilson, Pat Connaughton. Like, they got some guys, especially DJ Augustine. He's a very good backup point guard, even though last year in Orlando, he was one of the worst starting point guards in the league. But now you go to the backup role, you're one of the best backup point guards. DiVincenzo's good. He's a high-energy player. Bobby Portis, I saw it firsthand on the Knicks. He won us some games. You know, he's capable of getting hot and going crazy and winning you a game. You know, whether it may be in the regular season or the playoffs is to be determined. But they got a lot of guys, bro. And I'm really high on their role players and their depth as a whole. I think they fit with Giannis, and that's the most important part.
Yeah, and I went with almost the same exact lineup as you, except I had DiVincenzo starting over Bryn Forbes and then Forbes coming off the bench. Another guy you mentioned that I feel like a lot of people are letting fly under the radar is DJ Wilson. He played a pretty solid role for them last year, and from everything I've heard, he's taken a big step in this past offseason. So he could be a big piece for that team. I like the depth that they brought in. Bobby Portis is a nice high-energy guy to come in behind Brook Lopez, who he's a great defender, great shooter, but he's getting older, so you're going to need that high-energy backup. I think that Bobby Portis is a great fit there. And like you mentioned, they just brought in some nice veterans to surround that core that they already have. And I really like the rotation they built around Giannis. It's a perfect fit.
I like those two lineups. I was rolling out a different lineup. I think they're going to go pretty wing depth. I think they're going to go Drew at the 1, Torrey Craig at the 2, Middleton at the 3, and then obviously Giannis and Lopez. I think in the East with Jimmy Butler, Kevin Durant, Ben Simmons, I think you're going to need a little bit of wing depth. And I think Drew Holiday is going to be a permanent one this year for them. So I think that's what the lineup they're going to roll out. I do like those lineups you're throwing out, but I think this one gives you a little bit more defense and still the same shooting aspect with Torrey Craig and Middleton. And I think with Torrey Craig in the lineup, you now take that defensive pressure off Middleton, who is used to guarding the best wing defenders. Now he can focus a lot more on scoring the ball and bring that a little bit to his game because he can, score off the ball. He can be that guy. But now with Craig, he could guard the best player, and now Middleton could play a little bit less defense.
Now we're going to get into projections. Last year, they were the first seed in the East. Do you see them repeating that? I'll go first, and I'll say that I think they'll be the first seed once again. I have them as high as I have them as high as 1, of course, and I have them as low as 3rd. I don't see them dropping anywhere below the 3rd seed. And this is a team that last year they were historically great offensively and defensively in the regular season. They got better this year, and as long as Mike Budenholzer is there and they have that talent, I trust in them to be the best team in the regular season once again.
Yeah, I also have the Bucks at 1. I just think that when you look at Giannis, the times that he's been most exposed is in a playoff series because he's a very difficult guy to game plan for. It takes a specific personnel and game plan to stop him. And in the regular season, you just can't do that on a nightly basis. So a guy like him, he's going to bring you in a 72 game season at least 40 wins by himself. So I just don't see many teams stopping the Bucks on a nightly basis in the regular season. I have them at 1. The lowest I could really see them dropping is maybe 4, and that would be a nightmare scenario for them. But I think anything below 1 or 2 would really be a bust of a regular season for them.
I'm a fan of the fact that the Bucks, no matter the time, no matter the moment, they play hard every day, every night. So regular season, they're going to go hard. Same with Giannis. He's not going to take days off. He's going to play hard every game. So I'm under the belief that they will be the number 1 seed again. The lowest I have them going is 3. I feel like they're going to win about 55 to 60 games, and I think they're going to just completely dominate the regular season because the regular season is different than the playoffs. You don't play the same team repeatedly day by day. You got to play different teams, the different matchups. So I have them being number 1 seed, and the lowest is probably 3.